Level up with the new AAA Commanders MVP membership. Get all the benefits of AAA plus exclusive experiences, discounts, and tickets. Already a AAA member? Upgrade for free or join today at AAA.com/Commanders. Well, that was a terrible defensive effort. Hello and welcome to my podcast. Do me a favor, subscribe to the John Keim Report wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. You can find us there as part of Ampire Media, Ampire. Always much appreciated when you tune in. Don't forget, you can read my work on ESPN.com. Go up there for all the Commanders games. Go for any NFL teams games after Sunday. So give that a read on ESPN.com. And don't forget, Bram Weinstein and I, the voice of the Commanders, will be doing the live stream show Tuesday, 7:30 Eastern time. Yes, there was a mistake last week, or there was an issue with the link on our end, so we couldn't do it, but we will be doing it this week for sure. So join us there. Going to have a lot to talk about, especially about the defense after this 34-27 loss to the Falcons. The Commanders were just terrible on defense, and there's no other way to put it. And I think they know it because you can't be anything, you can't admit anything else after that game. So, by the way, before I get into the defensive effort, one injury update to tell you about. Defensive end Javonte Jean-Baptiste left the game with a pec injury. Yes, there's some definite fear about the severity of that. He'll get more tests on Monday to know the full extent of that injury. So they could need some more, most likely going to need some more defensive help pretty soon. They do have Preston Smith on the roster, so he can go in there, but they may have to be signing someone else as well. So the injuries continue to mount. Jean-Baptiste was not a starter, but he was a rotational player that they liked. And that's going to be another loss that they have to deal with. It just continues to get bad in terms of injuries for this group. And it's something they just didn't have to deal with at this much last year. But today was not about the injuries, folks. Today was about poor execution by the defense, just bad play overall. And they let a struggling offense off the mat on the first drive of the game. And that set a negative tone. It was the Falcons. Listen, man, the Falcons took the option to receive the kick. Everybody's been basically deferring to the second half lately. The Falcons wanted to get some momentum going early, and they had a chance to do it against this defense, and the defense let them have it. And the first series by both teams kind of told you all you need to know, because the Falcons, again, they're coming off an ugly loss last week. This is the NFL, so just because you look bad one week doesn't mean you look bad every week, right? We've seen that. The Chargers were undefeated, then they go to the Giants and lose. But the Falcons had come into the game with 29 points in 3 games on offense, 29 points in 3 games. They were one of the worst scoring teams in the NFL. And this team, they hung up 34 on these guys. And again, you cannot blame the injuries. Like, yes, I think Will Harris is a loss in the secondary, but you can't look back there and say, oh, if he had been there, things would have been dramatically different. He's not Derwin James. So this is not a guy that he's a good player for them, but it certainly shouldn't have led to this. And same with Dietrich Wise. I think it was just a bad game overall. And the problem is some of these issues that were happening before happened today in droves. And I'll get to all that. The Falcons had 435 yards of total offense. They averaged about 300 coming into the game. The Commanders were the top-ranked defense, believe it or not, on third downs entering the game. Today, Falcons were 6 of 12. There were a handful of times where the Falcons had second and long. I mean, they lost yards on first down, and they would convert it almost every time, or at least get most of it back. And it was just like they put him in a hole, and they consistently let him out of it. There were some players, who maybe aren't what you hope for yet, or not producing at the level that they had hoped for sure, when they traded for Marshawn Lattimore. But listen, folks, this isn't just on him. Yes, he gave up a couple plays, and both times he messed up, and you can't do that. But these big plays were not just on one guy, and that to me is where the troubling part is, right? And so, on the plays that Lattimore gave up, he gives up the long pass to Drake London, where he just gets fooled on an out and up, grabs him, gets a penalty, and gives up the play. And I'll be honest, that's not something the Falcons had shown success on this year. In fact, Michael Penix was 0 for 5 on throws of 20-yard area that were 20 air yards or more this season. He was 1 for 8 on go balls. Everything the Falcons have been doing wrong they didn't do today, or everything that hadn't been shown they showed today. And in the first couple of games, Penix was poised. He was this. Last week he looked really bad and rattled, and just had no rhythm at all. Today was a much different matter. They let him and the Falcons get confidence early, and it continued throughout the game. And it wasn't just about confidence; like they just weren't stopping. I mean, they couldn't tackle Bijan Robinson, who's very, very good, obviously, but there I'll get into that in a minute. So the problem is, you look at this and what is the answer? And the linebacker coverage has to improve. Is it going to? What do you do there? And the big problem to me is late motion. And then, by the way, the linebackers, whether it's one-on-one or just even dropping to their areas, whatever. But the big problem to me is the late motion that teams are using, and they're going to continue using it. That's the problem. So, I'm going to get to an example of that in a minute, but there's other times like you wonder about the communication. Now we asked Quan Martin about it. He said, hey, it's been great. Then you ask others like, well, when there's a late motion, you have to get on the quote unquote same page. And sometimes there is communication and guys are still messing up. Or at least that's what they're saying, that there is communication because, it's funny during training camp, this group looked good. And I think by and large, most people thought like, hey, it's going to be a good year for the secondary. It has not been. And that's concerning. Now in training camp, the caveat always was, and I would bring it up, but it's just like, how much did you would say it and you would hear it, but did you process it the right way? And so the big problem in the camp was they weren't going against high-powered receivers or an offense that uses as much motion as what they're seeing from other teams in that late motion, out of bunches, into stacks, whatever. Like that late motion is really, to me, tested rules and tested coverages. And like there are players like, I don't know why teams aren't going to do this all the time to us, right? Until they fix it. And so like that's a definite issue. Because that then again goes to test the discipline. It's not just about eye discipline, because I think it's about like, do you understand the assignment? Do you understand when they motion to this, that you are supposed to do this? Because there are times where it does not look that way. Sometimes the communication they'll say like, the others will say like, yeah, it has to be better. So where is it? And Marshawn Lattimore said sometimes they're just over aggressive, and you see that sometimes it maybe biting hard on a certain look or biting hard on a run fake that leaves you vulnerable. Sometimes they got beat. There were a couple good throws by Penix where he's in a rhythm. He's like a 3-point shooter in basketball. He gets in that rhythm, it's going to be going down all night. And that's what it looked like today. So for sure. But that motion stuff leads to confusion by this defense. And sometimes the motion creates chaos. So for example, on the wheel route to Bijan Robinson, this is a key play in the game. They cut it to 17-13. They're back in the game. With 17-10, they get the field goal at the end of half. They get the field goal to start the second half, and you get a stop there. You've got some momentum. And the first play, it's the wheel route to Bijan Robinson that Jeremy Reeves chases down. Well, on the play, they send a late motion, and then they run. They have two guys on the right. They send a late motion to the inside, and both those guys go inside. It creates traffic for Bobby Wagner, and he's unable to get out there to cover Bijan Robinson. And that's like, yes, Wagner's speed is not quite what it was, but if you take the right angle, if you don't have that traffic, you probably are able to at least defend the play a lot better for sure. Instead, it's basically a free run, and it's a big score. There was another time late motion in the first series. They ran out of a bunch, and it was a big, I think it was more than 20-yard gain to Kyle Pitts, but they run out of a bunch. They got motion out of the bunch on the left side to basically a stack on the right. And it's a late motion. So you've got to communicate on the run. You guys are moving, you're seeing things different. Two guys run at Drake London and Kyle Pitts just runs free. So two guys run to the one guy and Pitts just runs free. Is it communication? Is it just not seeing it the right way or not understanding like, hey, this is what we said during the week when this happens, we have to do this. Is it about the rules of the defense? But so two guys going to one guy, never a good sign, especially when you're leaving a Kyle Pitts free like that. That I think there's another one, then another late motion. This one was against Lattimore. And so it's a 3rd down and 7, keep playing the game, late in the game, they're down by a score. And if you stop them, it's, you get a 4th and 7, either kicking a really long field goal or you may have to punt. So in a good spot, well, 3rd down 7, Drake London starts to motion inside and Lattimore's on him. He's over the top of him, and then he gets too far to the inside, and then London basically cuts back, speed motion outside to the out route. Lattimore loses any kind of leverage on him. So he's basically giving him the outside that leads to a 9-yard gain and a first down, and they continue to drive in a very key spot. So that motion is in Green Bay, it was a problem. So the defense has actually had two good games, basically, but even against the Raiders, this was a bugaboo against the Raiders too, where they gave up some of these long plays. And until they get that fixed, is like, Quan Martin said, they're going to keep doing this against them. Like they're going to have to fix this at some point because teams will continue to do it all game. And they're facing a really good quarterback next week, despite whatever happened today. And with the Giants, Justin Herbert can really hurt this team with his arm. So, that's going to be a problem. So, and I think like I said, it's been there all year. And they know they're going to keep getting attacked until that is done. Commanders fans, this is for you. Level up with the brand new AAA Commanders MVP membership. You'll receive all the benefits of AAA, such as 24/7 roadside assistance, plus chances to win game tickets, access to exclusive team events and experiences, along with 15% off Commanders gear at the online pro shop. Already a AAA member? Add the Commanders MVP membership for free. Head to AAA.com/Commanders to upgrade or join the squad and put your fandom in drive. If you've ever had to hire someone, you know how difficult that can be. Well, the future of hiring looks much brighter because ZipRecruiter's latest tools and features help speed up finding the right people for your roles, so you save valuable time. And now you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/audio. With ZipRecruiter's new advances, you can easily find and connect with qualified candidates in minutes. There are more than 320,000 new resumes added to ZipRecruiter monthly, which means you can reach more potential hires and fill roles sooner. Use ZipRecruiter and save time hiring. 4 out of 5 employees who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And if you go to ZipRecruiter.com/audio right now, you can try it for free. Again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/audio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. When I needed to find good seats at a cheap price to watch my Cavs in Washington or another market, I turned to the Game Time app and saved close to 50% off my tickets. Game Time offers the best prices and you know your total up front, so there are no surprise fees at checkout. They have a lowest price guarantee or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. One app can help provide amazing lifetime experiences by allowing you to see events you might otherwise have missed. Download the Game Time app and use the code Keim, K-E-I-M, for $20 off your first purchase. I think the question is, how do you fix this? I don't think they're not changing personnel at this point. Is it something you still need in terms of personnel? Do you need that one or two more big time guy at safety or something like that? That's the question they're gonna have to answer in the offseason. That's not happening now. So within that, what's the answer? Like, is this the coaching staff? Is it the scheme? Is it the rules of the defense? What isn't being done? Is it the communication from coaches to players? Is it the players communicating themselves? Like, that's hard to really start to piece together. I know everybody wants to go attack Joe Witt now. I don't know that it's that simple. So I know the coordinator is always going to be the guy to blame. And listen, there's a body of work right now that you can point to. I get that. But in this particular case, like, is it last week, I asked Joe Witt about this, and I know people want answers. Like, we're not Perry Mason. He's not going to crack under the white light and just like, oh my gosh, you got me. Like, you can ask the question. I asked the question about, why does this keep happening? Is there a constant theme? And he's like, there isn't. He's like, basically, it's like they need to do their jobs. And you hear other players will say that too. You just have to do your job. And if you're not focused on that, then it's going to lead to these easy plays, this easy money type situations that Atlanta had all game. So, like I said, I felt the secondary would be better. And I do wonder with that motion stuff, like they just with Kingsbury's offense, they're not going to run quite as much as a lot of these teams do. So did they get that kind of work? But after 4 games, man, I don't think that's the reason either, because you didn't see it in camp. I think it's like, you just got to play it better. And why is that not happening? And so that's going to be something to figure out as well. But again, this started early. And the other part of the thing is that Bijan Robinson, we know is special. Like, we know he's special. He's arguably the best back in the league. So, and they still have 2 games against Saquon Barkley, and that's going to be some problems. So if they don't get some of this stuff fixed, now they've done a good job against the run up until today. Bijan is different. I get that. And so, I want to go back when I watch it to see like what is it they could have done better against him. Now, there are sometimes his cuts, his vision, he's just terrific. But then there are other times where it's like you're making him cut, but there's one guy and he might make a miss and slip out of that and nobody else is there. Like that was also the problem too. Like you need to have more guys around the ball. Why wasn't that happening? And again, it's hard for me to answer that at this point, but that's something to certainly ask and pay attention to for sure. But because of what the Falcons were able to do, they were able to find a rhythm and get it going. Again, like going into today, I felt like, hey, I thought they have a chance today because the way the defense has been playing was going to be good enough against an offense that had really been struggling. And this team had shown against the Giants, and albeit it was Russell Wilson who had a good game the next week, but then gets benched a week later. The Raiders have shown some things, but the Falcons just hadn't shown a lot. My fear going into the game is if it started this way, if you gave an offense like that momentum and confidence right away, it could be a very tough day because there is talent there. Michael Penix has a really good arm. Like, yes, there are some things that he did very poorly last week. And players are like, hey, you get him off his spot, he's going to be inaccurate. Like the more he holds the ball, the more he was on all game, just about all game. Like the one pick, even if the ball is a little bit higher, he's got another 25, 30-yard completion. It was a good play by Mike Samuel for sure in a very key spot. And that was another problem because the offense didn't convert on that one, but a really good play by him, but it wasn't, but Penix was going the right guy, just a little bit short. And he wasn't as errant as he looked at all last week, but that was the fear. Like there is talent on this offense. And you saw with Robinson, Penix got this arm, and gets in the rhythm. London's a very good receiver. Kyle Pitts can still hurt you. So that was the fear. If you let him off the mat early, give them confidence that it could be a tough day for them because the talent is there. Like what they've shown in the first couple of games kind of surprised me. But I felt like, I wondered if they could hold them like that, if they could, I felt like they could maybe make him, take away that first read and make him hold it a little bit and get him off that spot. They weren't doing that enough. There just wasn't enough pressure on him to do that. And that was another problem. So yeah, just not a good day at all for the defense in really any particular phase. And offensively, probably about what you expected. I mean, listen, man, given what they were missing, the starting quarterback, two of their top three receivers, a line that's been reshuffled and certainly not their fault. And like, it's a running back by committee. And they hung up 27 points against a defense that had by and large been playing well. And Marcus Mariota, fairly pedestrian numbers, 156 yards, a couple touchdowns, interception, ran for a few. But it wasn't, they don't have the explosive guys right now with McLaurin out. You don't have that enough explosiveness on offense. And do they have it even enough of it when he's there? When Jaden's back, I think you can get more of that. And so, by the way, I do think he'll come back this week, that's been the target date for a little bit. And I think the feeling was that maybe, it was at the end of the week, it was more of a medical decision than anything else. So, but I do believe there's optimism about him coming back this week, going back out to LA. That will be good for this offense. Not that this was Mariota's fault, but just to get another guy who's got that level of explosiveness that he does, not just with his legs, but with that arm. And, with McLaurin, I don't know yet. I think we got to get to the week and see. I think I would have some concerns about him playing next week at this point, but I just think it's way too early. So let's see what they say on Wednesday and throughout the week and what he does there. And I think another key will be they're traveling out there on Thursday. So if you're not traveling out there on Thursday, you're not playing. So, and I don't know yet about the others, Noah Brown, John Bates, et cetera. But I felt like the offense did pretty much what it should. And like even Mariota said after the game, like if they had gotten the ball one more time, they felt pretty good about what they could continue doing. They got into a rhythm. They were doing a good job there. But it's, I just think it was because the defense could not stop them. This almost reminded me in some ways, this is one of the worst defensive showings that I've seen them have. And you can go back to the Philly NFC Championship game where that was a lot about turnovers, but the defense also wasn't able to stop them in key spots. This was similar to that. Like this was the work to me. This was really bad. And I just think it is highly disappointing because the offenses aside that they needed this defense to come through. They needed the special teams to come through. A couple big returns, a couple muff punts by Jalen Lane. Matt Gay, three field goals. So, and the coverage got better in the second half. So that wasn't the issue. Luke McCaffrey had a couple good returns. So a spotty day by the special or an inconsistent day by the special teams. But again, you got to hang this one on the defense for sure. And so the big problem I had with the offense was just could they have run a little bit more screens, maybe also that drive after the interception, they get it at like the 25, and then the first play is a bootleg, guys in his face. Second play is a run, only a couple yards. Third play, Mariota's got Ertz open to the right, breaking out to the right, would have been a first down, but a guy's jumping in his face, and so he's got to try and throw it high and over him, and it's incomplete. And then you get a field goal, but that was a wasted opportunity because of what you had to do. And by the way, on the kick coverage early on, like Jeremy Reeves, because he's playing full time on defense, I did not see him on the kick coverage units like he usually is. Darnell Savage did play a little bit. So, nothing big to report there, but he did play. By the way, Mariota had the interception on that one. He said it was, I don't know about the decision necessarily. It's an aggressive one, but the throw wasn't good. He left it way out to the middle and he gave the safety a chance to get it. Lane did a nice job to get open. I did like on McCaffrey's touchdown, the 5-yard touchdown. What I liked about that is the way he basically presses the corner's leverage on the play. And I liked how he kept his eyes straight, kept his head straight. It was something as a rookie last year that I didn't always see him do, but it kept the defensive back frozen. And then he basically created separation at the top of the route, getting to the back of the end zone. Nice job. Ertz was also open underneath on that play, for sure. So, just not a good game, folks. And life gets chaotic during the season, especially when I'm on the road. I often feel I just don't have time or energy to make a big breakfast, so I grab my Huel Black Edition, mix it up here, folks, kickstart my day. I feel satiated and ready to go. Life is busy for everyone, whether you're back to school or just busy with work. Time is a valuable commodity, and that's where Huel can help. Spelled Huel, their Black Edition powder is a complete meal, so you feel full, focused, and ready for your day. And now Huel just dropped a first of its kind Super Greens drink in a can. It's called the Huel Daily Greens Ready to Drink. Forget powders, forget pills. This is your daily green, sparkling, refreshing, and ready whenever you are. And it comes in a variety of flavors. Together, Huel makes healthy eating simple. Try both today with 15% off your purchase for new customers with my exclusive code KEIM, K-E-I-M, at huel.com/Keim, Huel.com/Keim. Use my code and fill out the post-checkout survey to help support the show. Commanders fans, this is for you. Level up with the brand new AAA Commanders MVP membership. You'll receive all the benefits of AAA, such as 24/7 roadside assistance, plus chances to win game tickets, access to exclusive team events and experiences, along with 15% off Commanders gear at the online pro shop. Already a AAA member? Add the Commanders MVP membership for free. Head to AAA.com/Commanders to upgrade or join the squad and put your fandom in drive. I don't know what more needs to be said. I mean, we saw what happened, and this team has to get this fixed. Now, it's funny, as last year, we learned a lot about this team early in the season. By this point last year, I thought, hey, this is going to be a really good team. They came off the back-to-back the wins on the road trip at Cincinnati, Arizona, and you knew this team is different. And I still think this team has that level of togetherness, but I just wonder the injuries mounting and then those defensive miscues are going to be a problem until they're fixed. And teams are going to continue to test them on that. But then, we also learned something about them during the 3-game losing streak, as Quan Martin brought up. They're still confident because they went through all this stuff last year. Guys remain confident. For sure, it's only 4 games, so you can't not be that way. And you have to maintain a level of optimism, because if you're not, what are you out there for? So there's a long way to go, and you have a tough road game in LA and then a home game the next week against Chicago. You've got to come out that at worst 3-3. Because if not, then this thing's going to get really tough to overcome. So but at some point you'll also be getting these players back. Like I said, Jean-Baptiste it didn't look good, doesn't sound good, but there's more to learn officially, right? But the other ones are coming back. At some point, McLaurin will be back. Bates will be back. Noah Brown will be back. For how long, who knows? But he'll be back. So they'll get guys back, but you've got to execute better on defense in those explosive plays, especially because there are other parts. They've had a couple good games, but those explosive plays have got to be cut way back because they're one of the worst teams in the NFL at that. So if that doesn't cut back, it's going to be tough sledding from here on out. So anyways, folks, that's it from me. Appreciate you tuning in after a tough loss or after, a very disappointing loss for the Commanders. Again, this was not about the injuries, it's about defensive execution. And then yes, offensively, I think you can look and say, like, what if those guys had been there? What might it have looked like? For sure. But defensively, can't give them that excuse. So anyways, folks, appreciate it. Again, 7:30 Eastern time on Tuesday with Bram Weinstein, the voice of the Commanders, and myself on the live stream. Join us there, and I'll talk to you next time.